Hey, what's up? Zach here, and these are the biggest pros and cons of the new Jordan Zion 2 that you need to know about before making a buying decision on them. Here we go. And as you can see, this is the Voodoo colorway of the Zion 2. However, I will be giving my thoughts on the other colorways of the Zion 2, like the new Hope Diamond colorway as well, because the only difference between the Voodoo colorway and the other ones is in the outer layer of the uppers. And speaking of upper materials, the Zion 2 is really a perfect shoe to do a colorway like the Voodoo on, just because there are so many foxing and reinforcement elements. There are so many different levels of paneling in here, just in general, just standard on the shoe, that you really can do a lot of interesting things with them. And I think we will see a lot of different colorways in the future, just because there are so many elements in the uppers that you can customize and get really creative with. And I think the most eye-catching and honestly the most important element of the uppers is this forefoot strap. Now, not only does it go from one side of the cup sole to the other, it actually, if you look underneath of it, the bottom layer of it actually goes really far over the lateral side and over your toe box. So that does kind of allow you to really dial in how much control and how much support you want in the forefoot, as well as allows you to dial in the fit of that forefoot too. So you have a more narrow or wide foot, you can actually dial it in, which we'll talk about in the fit section as well. But as you go up the uppers, you can see you have 1, 2, 3 layers of paneling going all the way up, which just does give you a lot of containment in the shoe. It's really meant for a big player. And speaking of containment, if you go inside the shoe and look inside the ankle collar and heel counter, there is a lot of padding. It's actually a 2-layer padded ankle collar on the inside. Now that does give you a tremendous lockdown. It really does give a lot of compression around your Achilles tendon. However, it does put pressure on an area of your ankle called Kager's triangle. And until those pads kind of break down a little bit, it'll hit that nerve almost dead center and will give you just a little bit of annoyance. I did find that after the shoe broke in and those pads broke down a little bit, it just gave me a really nice kind of customized fit. However, for the first few hours or few days, just get ready for that to annoy you if the shoe is fitting you one-to-one. But the one gripe I had about the uppers was in the lace line. As you can see right here in the ankle, this is an outrigger lace eyelet here, and right in that area is where the tongue will start to kind of shift back and forth on you in the shoe. And for the shoe having such good containment, and for the tongue being so padded and bulky and comfortable, you do just get a little bit of movement in that tongue. So when you're lacing these up, make sure the tongue is exactly where you want it and really get a good tie down and lockdown right here in the ankle, or that tongue will start to shift side to side on you. It's not a huge deal, it can just get annoying. And on the upper durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. Remember, this is the hemp version of the shoe, so this does have this woven upper layer over top of it. And the Dremel did bite through the top layer of it, did not get through that second layer, so pretty good durability on this colorway. However, the Hope Diamond colorway and some of the other colorways just have one standard toe drag guard around it, which is pretty durable. It's the same one on some other Jordan brand shoes. It will start to degrade with repeat toe dragging. However, in terms of an outdoor shoe, still not bad. And getting into the more main event of this shoe, the Midsole Teardown, I did see some reports that there was a Zoom Air unit in the heel of these as well as the Air Strobel. Did not see it on this Teardown. However, you do have this Air Strobel unit that just goes right to the midfoot, so it is more just for heel cushioning. Now on the Zion 2s, the shank also goes pretty far proximal, does not go into the forefoot of the shoe because this one has a Zoom Air unit in it. Now the midsole foam that carries all of this, it does feel like a really elastic Phylon. It does feel exactly like the Nike Quartz Zoom Next in their tennis line, except not as rock hard. It does have a lot of elastic feeling. It really does spring back on you and does feel very nice underfoot. Even though there is an Air Strobel unit, you can tell that Phylon is underneath of you. So actually a pretty nice feeling. Now this does have a cup sole on the outside. This carries it right here on the lateral side as well as here on the medial side. So this shoe does really give you a lot of containment on both sides of your foot. I really do like how they incorporated Air Strobel and Zoom Air, because I do feel like Zoom Air gives a little more performance, Air Strobel a lot more comfort, and in this shoe you kind of have them both where you need them. But I think the most important part of the midsole teardown that you probably wouldn't notice unless you were looking for it is in the heel counter. Now if you look, the heel counter is that blue material, and that is the thickest and most supportive heel counter I have ever torn through. That is including basketball, tennis, or running shoes. This thing is about twice as thick as any other heel counter I've come across, especially for a bigger foot, putting a ton of force through the shoe. So you can already tell the shoe is meant to contain a ton of speed and a ton of force going side to side specifically. And with all that going on in the shoe, if you look at the jump height test, 38 centimeters on average, and I did feel like I was getting a lot of bounce out of this shoe. However, remember, this is a pretty hefty and bulky shoe out there, so you're also contending with having to lift this shoe up off the ground. So I would say the larger you are and the more force you can put into the shoe, the more it's going to give you in return. Now, the treads of the Zion 2, pretty interesting. In the forefoot, it's more of a linear pattern along the perimeter, and in the back, it's a delta pattern. But then right underneath of your ball of your foot is the Zion logo, which almost acts like a quasi herringbone. Now, I found that these shoes going side to side, making really hard cuts, are really good. They really dig into the court well. It's when you're going front to back and trying to decelerate really quickly from front to back that these can have a little bit of give, because it is more of a linear tread pattern. So same thing, if you're in the paint, you're trying to make hard cuts and pivots, they do great. If you're more of a perimeter player and you're relying on speed going downhill and stopping on a dime, you may have a little bit of give on a real painted slick outdoor court or an indoor hardwood court. However, really quick, tight turns in a confined area on hardwood, painted courts, or even just regular asphalt, these will grip fantastic. Now, the Zion 2s are not the most nimble shoes in the world. In terms of pivoting, like, they're a little bit clunky getting around yourself. However, it is nice that you can kind of dial these in with that forefoot strap, because the tighter you make that, the more nimble the shoe becomes, kind of when you're up on the balls of your foot and making those hard cuts. And honestly, the outsole treads of the Zion 2 were the biggest question mark for me. I wasn't really sure how they were going to perform when I was looking at them online. However, if you look at the Shuttle test, 14.53 seconds, and in a shoe this bulky, that is actually a really fast time for me. And more how confidently you can move side to side in these. I think that's what really gives the shoe its speed, not necessarily any aerodynamics or anything that's going on in the midsole. It's just that this shoe gives so much confidence, so you can really start throwing yourself around corners, and you can make up a lot of straight line speed in those corners. And on the outsole durability test, the Dremel 10 seconds high grit sandpaper, that rubber along the perimeter, the more clear rubber on these shoes, really not even a millimeter of damage, and the durometer on these was 17.5, really hard rubber, and this was the standard version of the shoe, so pretty impressive. However, on this central rubber here on the inside, the cream rubber on this colorway, about a little over a millimeter of damage on a 2mm tread depth. So if you are going to start burning through rubber on these shoes, it's going to be in the center of the shoe and here on this delta pattern here on the heel. Just remember that if you are on outdoor courts or really gritty asphalt, just watch out, because once you start burning through this rubber, the only thing that's going to be giving you traction is this peripheral rubber. Now, the fit of the Zion 2, almost like the Zion 1, they are actually a little bit hard to get on because that ring around the ankle is so supportive. So if you are a wider foot, I'd say a 2E, I would go up that half size. I actually did go up a half size on these, and they actually feel really good. If you are a narrow medium foot, because of the higher collar and the bulkier materials in the ankle collar plus the forefoot strap, these are kind of the ideal shoe that you can dial in your fit with. And if you're a wider player, I just would go up that half size. But I think the biggest benefit of the fit and profile of the Zion 2 is just that it's going to do great for somebody with either ball of foot pain, arch pain, heel pain, or even more of Achilles tendonitis pain because of the compression you can get around there. I just really feel like this shoe was just really made to contain all the most important elements of your foot and really give your foot a lot of confidence no matter really what you're bringing to the basketball court. I really feel like these shoes were kind of tailor-made for somebody that is trying to play just ridiculously aggressive basketball and needs a shoe that's really going to kind of be able to go along for the ride with them. And so I think the name of the game with the Zion 2s is they're made to be played with in the paint, whether on defense or offense. They're made for incredibly aggressive play, and they're made to contain a pretty big foot and a lot of velocity going through the shoe. So I just really think that, you know, Jordan Brand knew what they wanted with this shoe, and they made it. It's not meant for everybody. It is a little bit more of a clunky shoe. If you're a little bit of a thinner player or just don't kind of have the bulk that these shoes require, you might find them a little clunky, especially trying to make really hard cuts or turns around the perimeter, or just trying to make more ankle breaker moves. You know, these just might kind of get in your way more than they help you. However, if you are someone on the bigger player spectrum, or you just play a lot in the paint, you need to hold your ground really well and kind of have a shoe more for sturdy play, then honestly, these are probably the best shoe of the year for that. And that's why it's kind of hard to do these reviews sometimes, because me personally, I really like these shoes because I review a lot of shoes all the time. I'm on the basketball court a lot. And just for a shoe for me, I like shoes that give me a lot of comfort and a lot of containment in the shoe and a lot of lateral stability. So the Zion 1 and the Zion 2, for me personally, I really like them. It's just, you know, you got to know that not everyone's going to like what you like. So just remember, I think the more force you can put into these shoes and the more kind of you bring to the basketball court, I think the more these are going to do for you. And I think the higher your body's demands are, the more you're going to find in the shoe that you like. And if you want to compare the Zion 2 to the Zion 1, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. I'll see you in the next video.